Beyond the strange. Natural and unexplained phenomena. Spiritual activity. Cryptids.
The future and the past.
Conspiracies. Beliefs and ancient remains. The radio program for you, the listener, in bringing your stories and concerns to the table. And now your host, Dave Cruz.
Alrighty then, welcome everyone to Beyond the Strange, special edition after Super Bowl party. Anything goes tonight. Call-in number is 707-200-3520. Skype ID is Strange Days 2015. We are live here on Google Hangouts, streaming from YouTube. We're streaming at Spreaker. You can go to Spreaker.com and search for Beyond the Strange. You can also follow us on Twitter at Strange Days 2015. The hashtag is #BeStrange. We also have a Beyond the Strange Facebook page, where we post most of the show's info and updates. There is a Google Plus Beyond the Strange profile, and our email is beyondthestrange@gmail.com. Also, you can go to Beyond the Strange website. We are working to keep you up to date with past and present shows, and future shows for that matter. Go to beyondthestrange.com, and finally, you can join the show with your Gmail account or call in on Skype. The ID is Strange Days 2015. And want to shout out to Disclosure Now and UFO Independent on Facebook. And tonight's a free-for-all, guys. So definitely call in and we'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And right now, I want to introduce our co-host, Les Johnson III. Les, how you doing tonight?
Hey, Dave. Disappointed, bored. Bleh. Oh, man, that was a stinky game, dude.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure.
Yeah.
And also, we have a special treat, everyone, tonight with us from Spaced Out Radio. We have Dave Scott. Dave, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, boys, how you doing tonight? We survived Super Bowl 50 and that horrible halftime show. But you know what? At least we get to be here and talk about some really fun stuff. So thank you so much for allowing me to come on with you guys tonight.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. And thank you for coming on.
Absolute pleasure. And by the way, it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that. And it's good to be able to spread our wings with your listenership as well, to come together and see what we do.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, we had a show planned tonight, and unfortunately our guest didn't show up. They canceled today earlier, and I guess that happens in the business. So, just kind of take it for whatever it's worth. But Dave, let's talk about you for a second. Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about you. How did you get into business? How long have you been doing broadcasting?
I got my, it's actually a really fun story because I literally, as a youngster, was fired from every labor-intensive job that I ever had. So I decided, well, I better pull up my socks, go to college. I knew I wasn't a scientist or a mathematician or a historian, and I really, really liked the idea of radio. So I went to college in 1996 at one of Canada's top broadcasting schools here in British Columbia, and finished there in 1998 with my broadcasting diploma in broadcast journalism. And from there, I spent 10 years in terrestrial radio before getting out in 2007 and deciding to get into another desk job type career. But I ended up coming back in 2014 when I started Spaced Out Radio after really almost 4 years of having some very interesting and odd experiences myself that I couldn't find the answers to, whether I was looking on the internet, whether I was watching television, listening to other radio programs like Coast to Coast, or I don't know how big my collection of books grew in regards to every subject from paranormal to ufological. Mm-hmm. And I just decided that if I couldn't find the answers to what I was looking for, I might as well try and do something about it. So I was convinced to go back and start a podcast. Believe it or not, I never knew up until I started this, until I was convinced to do this by a good friend named Johnny Enoch, that podcasting like this existed. I was a terrestrial radio guy. Mm-hmm. I knew about satellite radio. I knew that there were such things as podcasts, but I thought they were tied to regular radio shows where if you missed it, you could play a podcast off a radio station's website. I had no idea that there was things like Spreaker or Blog Talk Radio or iHeart Radio or anything like that. I don't know why. I was just really naive to the whole topic. But here I am.
How do you feel about that? How do you... What's your take on both radio and internet?
I still like the terrestrial radio side much better. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's as cutthroat. I think you garner a bigger audience. However, with subjects like ours and the money that topics like ours bring in, I'm surprised that there are not more shows out there trying to compete against the heavyweights like Coast to Coast, and I'm surprised that there aren't more syndicated networks looking to try and add something like that, because the advertising revenue is there. I know in Canada, where I live, it is very difficult to try and put a show like this together and even market it on a terrestrial side. So I mean, you're kind of caught in a catch-22. On the podcast internet side, mm-hmm. I think the biggest downfall, and I know there's people out there who disagree with me, but I think the biggest downfall we have out there for people doing these shows is realistically everybody and their dog has a podcast.
Isn't that the truth?
There are literally... there's literally tens of thousands of people podcasting about UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman, never mind the paranormal or anything along those lines. And at some point, it's too much. And the sad part about it is the really good shows that are out there and people who are working hard are struggling for listenership because people in these fields no longer listen to the talent. They support their friends or their groups. So, for instance, let's say you're part of, Ghost Hunters International Group, and they have their own podcast. Well, you're going to support that because you're part of their group. Or let's say you have a friend who is a paranormal investigator. Obviously, you're going to support them. Nobody listens for the talent anymore. I know one show out there, and I'm not going to mention the name, but this person has been doing this for 5.5, 6 years. And it's one of the best shows out there, and, believe it or not, one of the most popular. It's a weekly show, and they are averaging 500 to 600 listeners a night.
Wow.
To me, when you have a show of that talent and that caliber, and once again, I'm not going to mention the show because that person told me hit those numbers off the record. Okay, but when you have a show like that that is that talented and that well known in the community, only to average 500 to 600 live listeners per episode, what does that say about our community? There are hundreds of thousands of people, if not a couple million people in North America alone, who love the topics of paranormal, UFOs, Bigfoot, any type of cryptid, and they're not listening. And if they are listening, they're listening to people who they know and that they are supporting. So the quality of show no longer matters anymore, and I think that's a sad sight for a lot of people who are putting in long hours, tough hours to broadcast a quality, network-worthy program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of poor shows out there. I've heard a lot of them, and it's too bad that a lot of these shows that are good, they don't really get the recognition they should, especially the truthers. And I when I say truthers, of course I mean the believers, the people who want to believe in UFOs, conspiracies, all that stuff, like, you know, cryptids and stuff, and it just seems like people are trying to turn a buck.
Well, you look at Coast to Coast AM, okay, they are still averaging between 6 and 8 million listeners a night. They're still the most popular overnight radio show in North America. Their numbers are fantastic. They're in 615 different stations across North America. And so it's obvious people want to listen to this type of programming.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get into this type of field and you start to really announce what you are doing, why you were doing it, and so on and so forth, it's very, very hard to create popularity when nobody is listening.
Yeah.
And that goes for my show, that goes for friends of mine's show, that goes for your show.
Yep.
And it's disappointing and frustrating when you look at the numbers on a nightly basis. And you know what? People listening, they may, whether it's live or on the podcast, they may say, hey, I don't have time to listen to the live show, but I listen on podcast. That's wonderful. And trust me, we all appreciate it. My podcast downloads are much higher than my live downloads. But in the end, I would rather go see the podcast done away with, because to me, it's more exciting when people are listening real time. They are communicating on Facebook or Twitter or in a chat room during the show, and they are expressing their interest and their views and their opinions that way, rather than really trying to, you know, push and make sure that, you know, that they have time to listen, because there's people doing good work.
Mm-hmm.
There's people doing very good work out there, and in my opinion, they deserve the recognition. And those people who are working their tails off every week or every night are not getting the recognition that they deserve, and that's sad. But that comes with oversaturation. And like I said, people may not agree with me. I may be a lone wolf in that opinion, but it's how I feel, and I really hope one day that people who are interested in these topics, instead of supporting, you know, someone because they're a friend or family member or a co-investigator or from the same group, I really hope they take the time to learn and listen and really educate themselves on what is out there for their listening pleasures.
And Dave, Scott, that is, that's one thing that I do. I go through different podcasts. I find the podcasts I like, and I download. I make sure that I follow, I download, and I always give them a thumbs up because that helps. And one big thing on YouTube, a lot of people don't realize, is that I watch the commercials, especially for things that I like, because in a lot of ways that helps support the podcast that I enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know what? I agree with you on that, and I think the commercials are important. I realize a lot of people don't like commercials or anything like that, but you know what? They are a very important part of what the show does. It doesn't matter what the show is. So you can only hope right now that, people take that time to listen. They take that time to make sure that everything is going the way it's supposed to go. And hopefully one day, they start to listen.
Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Well, for those of you guys in Spreaker, thank you guys for coming and joining us. Fran, Bob, Brian, Miss Michelle,
K28.
K28, Casper Parks. Thanks for joining us. We are speaking with Dave Scott from Space.Radio, and his show is on Monday through Friday at 10 to 12 p.m. Pacific. Is that right, Dave?
Yeah, we go from 10 p.m. to midnight, Monday through Friday, and then on weekends we have James Tyson, who comes in and hosts Space Out Weekend, and he goes Saturday nights 10 to midnight Pacific, and on Sundays at 9 p.m. until 11 p.m.
Cool. So, Dave, let's talk a little bit about your show.
Sure.
Well, not exactly, but what's it about? I mean, we know it's pretty much the same community, but I'll let you do the talking.
What topics do you have?
Yeah, what topics? Thank you, Les.
Yeah, not a problem, guys. What I try and focus on when I started this show in November 30th, 2014, I wanted to go a little bit more hardcore on topics such as UFOs, topics such as aliens, topics as Bigfoot, sea monsters, any type of cryptid that is out there, paranormal, supernatural, a little bit of conspiratorial. The one things that I do try and stay away from is anything that can be found on regular radio. I have no interest in things like solar flares. I have no interest in broadcasting doom and gloom, like when the world is going to come to an end, or when's World War III going to happen, or when should we be preparing for end of days. I'm not here to scare people into and fearmonger. What I want to do is I want to be able to tackle other types of topics of people's experiences. And as an experiencer myself, and in the last 4.5 years, I've had quite a few, I want to make sure that people who are like me, who have had the experience or don't quite understand what the experience is all about, have a home to go to. So what we try and do is we try and take the hardcore side of things. And when I say hardcore, I'm not saying, calling out people or buttering them up to get them on the show, and then when they get on the show, absolutely rip them a new one because you think they're full of crap or something along those lines. What I'm saying is we have a motto on this show where we believe everybody. And the reason why we do it that way is because we've never stepped in their shoes. Okay? I can come on here and I can say bluntly, I have had experience with 5 different extraterrestrials personally. Okay? I have never had a negative experience. Now, that doesn't mean that when I bring someone on the air who says all aliens are bad, it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It doesn't mean that because their opinion is different than mine, that they're wrong, I'm right. We don't do it that way. I will question them on it. As a journalist, that's my job. But on the flip side, I haven't stepped in any of my guests' shoes to say they're right, I'm wrong, or I'm right, they're wrong. And it's not my place to put that, because the same experience they may be having is an experience that, say, many in the audience may be happening or may be having. So we try and keep it a little bit politically correct on those ends. However, what we try and do is get the experience out there. Bring on the people and the experts, if there are any experts in these fields, to come out and tell us what is going on. Because in the end, the biggest forgotten part, and I was talking to a lady about this. Her name is Lori Fenton. I don't know if you've ever heard her, and if you haven't had her on your show or heard of her, find out who she is, because that is a very, very good person for you to get on the air. Lori Fenton. And we were talking a few weeks ago when I was a guest on her show about the forgotten ones. So when you see people spending their hard-earned money at these conferences, going to these conferences to see speakers, going to these conferences and buying T-shirts, buying books, or buying technical gear like ghost equipment for ghost hunting, things like that. The one piece of evidence that all of these conferences, for the most part, have forgotten about is the experiencer. It seems like the experiencer has gone the way of the dodo. So what we try and do on our show is we try to bring the experiencer back, so that way they can feel comfortable in knowing that they're not alone. Whether they've had an alien experience, whether they have had a Bigfoot sighting up close and personal, whether they've seen UFOs flying in the sky and it scared them. So that's what we try and get to, is the hardcore of what is actually happening out there and how can we help people. And that's what I think our niche is.
Yeah, and to a degree, I agree with you, but there's people like, and I will say it on my show because I'll never have them on the show, but you got people like Third Phase of Moon and, other people who are trying to debunk, the experiencers. And those are the kind of people that I'd like to stay away from. But, yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from, Dave.
Well, Dave, meaning Dave C., that's one of the reasons you started the show, was
Absolutely.
You wanted to bring the experiencer's point of view and give them a pulpit to talk from.
Yep. Yeah, and so far it seems to be great. I mean, there's so many people out there who've experienced paranormal and supernatural things, and it's just amazing to get their story. And another thing I'm finding is that people who are in this community, who are experiencers, they don't really get their story out. They just, and this is a good soapbox, if you will, for them to do it. Sorry, I'm stumbling a little bit, but I'm still shaken by that Super Bowl. It really sucked.
Yeah, it did. Let's be honest. It was horrible.
But I want to get into a little bit about the Super Bowl because Les and I were going back and forth, and it seems every year, more and more, I'm starting to notice patterns with the Super Bowl. And when I say that, and people are probably going to jump all over me for saying this, but it almost seems like somebody's behind the curtain directing everything, as far as like NWO or Illuminati or that sort. I see a lot of symbolism, and tonight I saw some really weird stuff. Um, Les also
Well,
pointed out the
yeah, I
commercial,
mean, yeah,
the
I mean,
commercial that we saw.
tonight's theme seemed to be like almost it was weird. I mean, I saw some church driven things or some Catholic Church kind of dogma stuff going on. I mean, Dave, you pointed out a couple of things. It seemed like the theme was like, the eye of,
Red
what
and
did you
blue.
call it? The eye of Horus?
Well, the Eye of Horus, or the All-Seeing Eye. Do you believe in that, Dave? Do you think that could be possible?
You know what? It might be because it's the biggest stage in sports in the world, next to the World Cup of Soccer, which I'm allergic to. Um, but you know what?
Go
At
hockey.
po- at yeah, I'm a hockey guy. I'm Canadian. What can I say?
Yep.
You know what? At some point, though, it almost seems to me, and I've been wondering this the last couple of years, even before I started this show. But to me, it almost seems like the winner. It's like WWE, where the winner is predicted. I mean, everybody and their dog was expecting that catch right in the first quarter by Carolina's wide receiver there. I think it was Ginn Jr. who hauled in that, or no, it wasn't him. Pardon me, who hauled in that catch that went to replay, and they said it was incomplete. Like if the NFL can blow something that blatant on its biggest stage, it makes me wonder. It totally makes me wonder. And I know a lot of your listeners are not going to agree with me when I say this, okay, but this is why I love the Canadian Football League. Yes, it's apples and oranges to the NFL. It's about 100 million times smaller than the NFL. But you know what? To me, it's what football is supposed to be about. There's no big stage, where you can see that the corporations are a hell of a lot more important than the fans alike. I mean, the big laugh I had about tonight's game, it was after Denver punched in the touchdown right late in the game. I believe that was in the third quarter there, where they did a pan shot on some Denver fans sitting in the crowd, and there were all these geriatrics standing up and stomping and trying to pump their arms up in the air, and they couldn't.
Right.
And you know what? I'm thinking, that's not a football fan. That's someone who is rich, who just wants to be part of the spectacle. And that's what I don't like about the Super Bowl game, is that the real fans aren't there because they can't afford it. They're too busy trying, I don't know, to put food on their table, gas in their tank, get to work the next day in a bad economy. So, to me, the Super Bowl is a little bit of a farce in a way. And it bugs me because of that. It's not real. It's a spectacle. It's not a sport event.
It's a spectacle of consumerism, is what it is.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes. And you know what else? You know what else disappointed me, guys, was that this was being up in Canada. We don't get American commercials up here, so I'm sitting in a pub with my father tonight watching the game, and I'm all excited because they got an American feed, and the commercials were disappointing this year.
Yeah,
they were even the Budweiser commercial.
Oh yeah, that one, we really got to talk about that. Let's go ahead and take our first break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about the Super Bowl and what I believe was a lot of symbolism. And yeah, Les, we got to talk about that commercial for real. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm Dave Cruz, and we're here with Dave Scott and Les. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Remember what Professor Snidely, myself, always says. It's not the size of your brain that counts. It's the weight. And remember, Beyonders, listen to Beyond the Strange. Sundays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Do you believe in UFOs? Time travel? How about ghosts or Bigfoot? Greetings to all you Beyonders out there. This is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange. I wanted to personally thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Beyond the Strange is not your typical podcast. We want to hear your stories and experiences. This is the radio program for you, the listener. We bring your stories and concerns to the table. So check us out live every Sunday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, Beyonders believe. Welcome back. This is Beyond the Strange, and this is an Anything Goes show tonight. This is the after Super Bowl party, and yeah, anything goes. So we're here with LJ3 and Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. Thanks for joining us again, Dave. We appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem.
The call-in number is 707-200-3520, or you can contact us with your Skype ID. Our Skype is Strange Days 2015. So, anyways, yeah, back to what we were talking about with the Super Bowl, as far as it sucking so bad. I was actually talking a little bit with Robert Sullivan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, Dave.
No, I am not.
He's a writer. He has a few books on cinema symbolism. He's a Freemason, and he writes a lot about the symbolism in movies, that sort of thing. He has a book about Enoch. He's a great guy. And I was asking him a little about the symbolism in the Super Bowl, as I noticed, and this is another thing, I don't want to go overboard on this, because sometimes it's easy to read too many things into certain subjects, like, tonight. I'm sure it was all about marketing and making money, but isn't that what the NWO wants to do, or the Illuminati? Make more money, get more power?
Well, I think on the end of it, I mean, the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs, whatever group you want to call it, They're going to try and get to the people any way they can.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, take it one step further than just the Super Bowl. You look at the way the media is now, the mainstream media. You would have journalists from yesteryear rolling over in their graves like Walter Cronkite or people like that, seeing how the media is portraying stories these days. It's hideous. The public doesn't realize that we do not have an outlet anymore in order to express our freedoms. That is what the media is supposed to do. And when the media is blowing off stories for the sake of telling us the goods on what's happening with, you know, the Jenner Kardashian family, or what Miley Cyrus or Britney Spears are doing now, it's a little ridiculous. You know, and they seem to pick and choose now. Like the Hollywood hate boy is Martin Shkreli, you know, Pharma Bro. Yeah, they're going hard on that, but they dropped the ball when John Podesta, President Obama's right-hand man, basically tweets out, aliens exist.
Absolutely. Yep.
So they're allowing us to see what they want us to see. And it's a very sad and scary part, in my opinion, that they are allowing this to happen. And the fact that most people aren't even waking up to it, but more importantly, don't even care, it's scary. I mean, here's another example. You have an election coming up in November. It costs about $1.5 billion to get the nomination to run for president. And if you look at it, I'm going to give you an example with Canada's system here. Our election, we had the longest electoral drive since 1872 in our election late last year. You know how long it lasted?
How long?
Take a guess.
I couldn't tell you, honestly.
10 weeks.
10 weeks.
Oh my God. 10 weeks?
10 weeks. And in 10 weeks, you have to get out all of your signs and put them around the road, whoever is running. Okay, you have to go through the debates, or the politicians have to go through the debates. Okay, and everything is said and done in 10 weeks. And that was the longest one since 1872.
Jeez. Wow.
Okay.
Not the dog and pony show we have here, huh?
No, and let me tell you something. Let me tell you this, okay? In that 10-week span, there is a cap on what they are allowed to spend.
Wow. You know, we don't even know.
Very different.
Yeah, we don't even freaking know where the money goes after the election. In truth, it probably should go to, you know, the people who really need it. But I have a feeling it ends up in the pocket of the politician or the politicians, etc.
Exactly. So here's the thing. If you want to talk Illuminati and how they're getting to us, think about this for a second. It's easy for them to manipulate the media now. It's easy for them to manipulate things like the Super Bowl and put all their hidden signs and everything in there, right? We can agree on that.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now, if you think about it, how has voter turnout been the last number of years? The last number of elections. Say go back the last 10 elections.
What they expect?
Keeps going down.
Yeah, anywhere from 22 to 25%, Dave, something like that.
I'd say so.
I believe in Canada we had our highest in probably 18 years, which was we had a 70% voter turnout, just under 70% voter turnout. Okay, usually that has been around 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have 50% of people in the United States saying, well, I don't know, no matter who I vote for, it's not going to change a thing. That's what they want. That's what the Illuminati or the shadow government is banking on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's funny because my dad and I, we were talking during the football game, before the football game, we were talking about American politics for a second. And one of the things that we found quite funny about your system down there is the fact that you look at the Democratic nomination. I would love someone to explain this to me. Bernie Sanders is winning every public voter poll out there. Yet the media continues to say that Hillary is leading the Democratic nomination.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How is this possible? If Bernie is attracting more money with 0 sponsors, if he is attracting more young people, more ethnic people, more students than anybody else, how is he still behind? And it takes me back to a few months ago, if you guys remember, where he won a CNN debate. CNN then took the numbers away from their website and called it a Hillary victory. Even though on the poll, Sanders had won their public opinion poll.
It's absurd.
Okay? So who is choosing who the next president of the United States will be?
It's
Our
not
corporations.
Us. Yep. It's not
Exactly.
the people.
Exactly.
And by the way, Casper Parks wants to know if Canada can take Ted Cruz back.
We don't want him. Look. Hey.
Send him to Cuba.
Think about it this way. The last time George Bush got elected, senior, we sent you Celine Dion. When George Jr. got elected the second time, we sent you Nickelback. The third time, we sent you Justin Bieber.
Oh, man. I'll take Nickelback anytime.
You can keep Ted Cruz all you want.
Mm-mm. No. No. We were actually having a discussion with Casper at the end of the show last week. We usually have one of our famous off-air discussions after the show, Dave. And we were talking about how the State Department still hasn't proven whether or not this guy is really an American or not yet.
Right.
Because if you think about it this way, he's been in the Senate for how long? What happens if you uncount every single vote he's ever done in Congress and the Senate?
Yep.
Because he's not actually an American citizen.
But he's running for president.
But he's running for president.
That?
Yeah.
It's insane. Our system sucks.
I don't get it. I really do not get it at all. I find it very confusing. Put it this way. I can tell you this, though. And, I don't want this to turn into a big political debate because I am not an expert on American politics. I'm not an expert on politics at all.
I'm not an expert, period.
But I can say this. In following what I do follow, Ted Cruz, as an outsider, scares the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is talking almost the exact same way the Taliban were talking in Afghanistan before we all went over there to blow the shit out of them.
Right.
Right? I mean, this guy is nuts. He wants to bring America back to 1954, where women have to wear dresses, stockings, and heels. Colored people have to ride their own bus. And America just becomes a big world bully again. That's not what anybody wants.
No, but you know what, Dave? Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of the Tea Party and the extreme right wing wants to involve church with state. That's what they want.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. But I want to let you guys in on a little secret, okay? Because realistically, I'm one of the lucky ones where whoever you elect in there is not going to affect me personally because I'm north of the 49th. Okay? But I see a lot of rhetoric on social media and everything about Bernie Sanders being a socialist.
Yes,
and how and how that leads to communism. Okay? America, what I want to tell you is this. Canada is a socially democratic society. Western Europe is a socially democratic society, whether it's Spain, London, England, France, Sweden, Finland, Denmark, Germany. We are all social democrats. We all have free health care. We all allow women to have up to a year off or longer for maternity. I can go into any hospital in Canada. If I need help, they will help me. I have a friend of mine in Pennsylvania paid $500,000 for a new heart. That was after his Medicare covered their portion. In Canada, that costs me $0. Okay? You are the richest nation in the world, yet you hide behind... I'm not saying you guys in general, okay? But in my opinion, a lot of people hide behind their fears of what the rest of the world is doing. Germany's economy is not struggling. Canada's economy is a little bit struggling right now, but it's not to the brink where we're going to see a full-on recession or anything like that. Okay? England's economy is not struggling. Okay? And if let's get cracking in your chat room. I know you don't care about what I say. I've already said that. My opinion means nothing. I have said that. Okay? And I'm not here for a popularity vote. I'm here just saying that the rest of the world is doing all right with what you guys fear.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's too bad because everybody looks at the United States as a leader. I love the United States. Okay? Up here, we don't have anything like Las Vegas or Hawaii or the beaches in California or the sunshine of Florida during the winter. We don't have Friday night lights when it comes to football season. I would love to see that. You know? And it's too bad that you guys are kind of pulling each other apart in regards to this because it's disappointing to see.
Well, I think, somewhere in our capitalism system, we forgot how to pretty much care about each other. And I think that's why things are the way they are. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, socialism and communism, definitely two different things. Go ahead, Les.
It totally is. I will tell you right now, most of Europe and Canada have some of the strictest gun laws going. Yet, everybody in the community where I live, way out in the sticks, are gun owners. I think I'm one of the rare ones in my community that I just moved to this summer that does not have a gun. Yet, we don't see people having to carry people. We don't see disputes being, decided with a gun every now and again. And... I would love to see my brothers and sisters to the north, and trust me, guys, I am blessed to have so many American friends and family, probably more than I do here in Canada. And it hurts me to see what you guys are going through down there, where everything is an attack. Everything, every week there's a mass shooting.
Yeah.
It hurts me. It hurts me because that's not the America that I like. It's not the America that I enjoy. Now, people could say, you're from Canada. Who really gives a crap about what your opinion is? Let's get cracking in the chat room already made a comment about that. And you're right. You're right. Okay? But in the end, if you get sick, you should be able to get help. Yep. And not worry about the cost. If you have, if you have AIDS, you shouldn't have to worry about Daraprim jumping from $13 a pill to $750 a pill.
Ugh. Yeah.
You know, and it bothers me to see it. It really bothers me to see it. You know, even the veterans, and we're struggling with our own veterans up here, where our veterans are committing suicide as well. More has to be done for the veterans.
Yep.
More has to, and yet, you know,
No one's doing a
recently,
damn thing here in America about the vets.
you know, I mean, you're asking these young men and women to go fight under the American flag overseas, and one war shouldn't have even happened. That was pure ego. That was in Iraq, because there was no weapons of mass destruction. Everyone knows that.
Nope.
Okay, Afghanistan, we can decide on that. Syria, that's just a mess you shouldn't be in. Okay, however, it's also proven that John McCain and the CIA helped create ISIS. And when you have that happening and you're sending men and women, good young men and women, overseas to put their lives on the line, and if they lose a limb or they have a head injury or they get post-traumatic stress disorder, there should be an absolute guarantee that they are going to get the respect that they deserve when they come home.
Yep.
Instead of when you see stats that there are over 50,000 veterans living on the streets of the United States. They gave their life for that country, and now people are crapping all over them because they're begging for $1.
Well, Dave, if you want to think about it this way, I mean, you know, and I'm not ragging on Obama when I say this. You know, they want to move 10,000 people into the country, and you know they can't afford, you know, and they had to put up all new housing, all new places for them to live. Yet they can't, you know, our country can't put up homeless vets.
I agree.
Exactly.
And you know what? Canada allowed 25,000 Syrian refugees into the country. And I want to tell you this. I have no problem with that. I do not worry about them coming over and being domestic terrorists. I don't worry about that. Okay? This is my beef with it. And this is just my opinion. However, when the top 5 richest Muslim countries in the world, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, and Jordan, are refusing to take a single Syrian refugee. Yet, we are supposed to be, as taxpayers of Canada or the United States, responsible for these people who have lost absolutely everything due to religion and oil. Okay? I fully understand. They need a home. They're more than welcome to come to Canada. I have no problem with that. But before we accept them, why are the top 5 richest Muslim countries denying their own people, which is against the Quran? I want that question answered. And as an American citizen like you guys are, or me as a Canadian citizen, when I see our governments doing this, I want that question answered. It's only fair. Those are my tax dollars, just like your tax dollars have spent $21 trillion already on the war on terror in the Middle East. $21 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And we had no say in that.
No, I understand that. Okay. However, what I would say is this. Why are the 5 richest Muslim nations not taking a single Syrian refugee? That's not fair.
Nope. I agree. Totally. Mm-hmm. And they're coming over here, and they're coming over to other countries, and yeah, it's not fair.
You know, actually, Dave, one of our other Canadian listeners, Dennis, actually said that, hey, Canada isn't doing too well in the veterans arena. IEI, Fantino, just one example.
Yeah, and that's what I stated. Canada is absolutely doing terrible with it as well. You know, that was led by our former Prime Minister, Stephen Harper. And so far, our new Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, he's more interested in spending money outside the country than he is about his election promises of improving the country on the inside, like creating jobs and taking care of veterans. I don't understand where these politicians get off on sending these beautiful people who are willing to put their lives on the line for fellow citizen strangers and then absolutely shun them when they get home. I have a friend of mine who served in Afghanistan. He has post-traumatic stress disorder. Many of his friends have already committed suicide after coming back because they're treated like an infidel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's wrong. That is absolutely wrong.
Well, Dave, it's kind of like here. I mean, when the veterans come back and once they're out of the military, they're treated like terrorists themselves. They're put on a list because now, you don't work for the government anymore. So now all of a sudden you're you could be an enemy of the state.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. But we're just podcasters, my friend.
Yeah,
we're just
exactly.
podcasters. And what you guys have a chance to do in the United States coming up in November is make a difference.
Yep.
And the only way you can make a difference is vote.
Yeah, I believe it.
That's your only say. Vote.
I believe it for sure. Hey, we're going to go to our next break, and when we do, we're going to change it up a bit. This is Beyond the Strange. We'll be right back after this next break. Don't go away.
Hey, are you strange? How strange are you? You should listen to Beyond the Strange, hosted by Dave Cruz, Sunday evenings at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Break out, all you faternauts and other truth seekers. Look behind the curtain of perceived reality to the strangeness beyond. Keep up with us on Twitter at #BeStrange.
We are back. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz, and we are speaking with Dave Scott from Space.radio, and we have a caller on the phone. Caller?
Yes.
Hi. Who's speaking?
Hi. This is Beth.
Is-
No.
Hey, Bev. How you doing?
Oh, just fine. How are you?
Oh, we're doing good. Recovering from that Super Bowl because it was horrible. How you doing tonight?
I didn't even watch it because, what upset me was when they were introducing the former MVPs, there were people in the crowd booing a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, I don't care if you don't like a player. That is totally disrespectful.
I agree.
And, they were great players.
Well, yeah.
It's
Yep.
And back then, that was when football was football.
Right.
Now it's just all... Ugh.
Well, it's kind of like what Dave Scott said. It's become spectacle. It's not about respect for the game or love of the game anymore. Like you and I and Bob and Dave Scott and Dave, Dave Cruz. We all love the game ourselves, but we can't afford to go to a game like that. It's
Right.
just how it's kind of, Bev. It's kind of how everything's turning out. I mean, there's no respect for anyone anymore.
I think
No.
the lowest price tickets for Levi Stadium in San Francisco was like around $1,000, which would be the nosebleed. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Exactly.
Which is
If you
enough
want
for
the
any
really
one
good
of
ones-
us to eat for 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's around there.
And another thing I got upset about is, there was a lot of homeless people living under that bridge. And they shoved them out because of the Super Bowl. Hello, you're spending all that money on that Super Bowl. What about the homeless? Why not give them some of that money?
Well, why not put them up if you don't want to see them, at least put them up in a nice freaking hotel for the night. Gosh,
Exactly. Exactly. I just don't understand people. And and like you said, there's so many homeless vets. They fight for this country. And they come home, expecting to get help, and they don't.
well,
And that's
Bev, it's
That's
not
so-
even that they
so bad.
expect help. They don't necessarily
should
want
get
help.
help.
Sometimes they need help. And that's when we should be putting a hand out to them and helping them.
exactly.
Yep. I totally
Exactly.
agree.
I mean, they fought to keep us free.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
as free as
absolutely.
we're ever going to be right now,
Yeah,
we're
exactly.
losing a lot of our freedoms.
Yes, we are. Yep. Yes, we are.
And
Hey, Bev.
in
I'm sorry.
my,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Oh, I was
in
just
my
going to say.
opinion,
Sorry.
it's going to take a revolution to get our freedom back.
Yep. I totally agree. I agree. Hey, Bev. While you're on the phone, do you have a question you would like to ask Dave Scott?
Oh, not really. I just wanted to give my opinion on some things.
Okay. That's cool. Well, greatly appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.
Thanks for calling.
Well, thank you, and you guys are doing a great job.
Thanks,
Thank
Bev.
you, Bev.
Really appreciate
Love
it.
you, Bev.
And Bob.
Love you too, Les. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I was going to bring
Love
up when we were talking about healthcare. Guess who just got his fifth heart?
Oh, I think it was six heart, wasn't it?
Oh, sixth. Yeah, you're right. Second
Sixth
kidney, sixth heart.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Rockefeller.
At 99 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, is that not the most ridiculous thing you have ever heard in your life? If you or I, or any of us, would try to get a heart past the age of 65, they laugh at us. Not to mention, the way it's supposed to be is the hearts or the organs are supposed to go to people. They're donated by people to people that need them. Now, I really wonder in this case if he got the heart donated by the hospital and if the family was actually compensated for it. I kind of doubt it. What do you think, Dave?
I think the family was definitely compensated, because that's the only way that could get done. Because, I mean, how many times have we seen stories in the media where someone is turned down because, a lack of funding or a lack of everything? I mean, and add to the fact that he jumped right up the list and bypassed the list of people waiting for donor organs in order to have a number 6 heart transplant at 99 years old. I'm sorry, but at 99 years old, what more can you contribute to society? You've already done your hard work. Just sit back and relax and enjoy. Go play golf or go fishing.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, at 99, I'm looking to just go kaput. I'd be too tired to do anything. And actually, Barrett just put a link in the in the speaker chat there that it's probably unlikely that he really did. Not sure exactly where the article came from, but we obviously can't we can't vet that information either. And that's another thing, Dave, about these shows that we do. We try to distinguish what's true and what's not true, but we can't vet everything. We can't tell everybody, yeah, this is the truth, or this is, what I mean? This isn't, vetted or verified.
I know exactly where you're going with this, and it's impossible, because when you do what we do, you not only have to vet the information, but you have to vet the disinformation, because there is just as much disinformation out there as there is true information. And a quick example of that, I was talking to a Bigfoot investigator named Kelly Shaw from Rocky Mountain Bigfoot Research Organization in Utah. Mm-hmm. And he confirmed the same thing. If you're that lucky person who gets that clear video of a Bigfoot now, how long before you post it are you getting absolutely ripped as it being fake? I mean, you look at Bigfoot, for instance, the Patterson-Gimlin film. That happened in 1967, and it is still being hotly contested as to whether or not it is real or it is fake. And it really makes you wonder, in the end, what truly is going on, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And that's the problem with absolutely everything today. People, if you have the right information, people are quick to dissolve it as false without doing their research. And if you don't have the information, or you have the information but you hide it, then people say, well, we don't believe you because we haven't seen the information. I have a friend of mine, R. Keith Andrews. He is a psychic and an ET contactee. He was last September, August, September, he went to an experiencers conference that featured the likes of Grant Cameron, Travis Walton, and many other very big-name people. And on the Sunday, while Travis was speaking, 3 aliens appeared as humanoids. Keith actually recognized one of them, not like, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you in a while, but just recognized that they didn't seem quite right. So he actually went up to one of the beings and said, are you Pleiadian? And the being looked at him and said yes. And as Keith was looking at him, and Keith was only a foot and a half away, you could see the pigmentation of his skin swirling as he tried to hold human colors, because Pleiadian skin is like a bluish gray.
Yes.
Okay? Nobody saw them enter, and there's actually people who saw them dissolve as they left. Okay? 20 people who were in that room have come forward saying, yes, they've seen this. Keith even got a photograph. And the amount of abuse he has taken over this one photo that he has
on his phone
with these beings. No, it was with a digital camera, not his phone.
Oh, okay. I thought he hadn't been producing that for other people. You have to actually like see it on the phone itself.
I have seen it.
Oh, okay. No, I'm not saying that you haven't. I was just saying he only shows people on the camera itself. That's what I had heard.
Yes, because he asked the Pleiadian people if he could release it publicly, and they said no to him. So he was respecting those wishes. Okay, I have Keith on my show once a month, every Friday, the first Friday of every month, and I've got to know him quite a bit over the last year, and I believe him. And add to the fact that the amount of abuse from people that he has been taking over this, at times he wishes he didn't even have the photo, because it's unfair. People who call him a crockpot, people telling him that the photo is faked, okay, and apparently there was a release of a fake photo out there that I heard people speaking about, and I read about it, that they had seen a fake photo. And, you know, the amount of abuse that people take when they're just trying to say, look, guys and gals, I got something.
Well,
it's ridiculous.
Well, Dave, don't you think there is a concerted effort out there to debunk anything strange, anything paranormal, anything UFO, Bigfoot, cryptozoological? I mean, it's everywhere. There are professional paid debunkers out there that make a living off doing that.
Yep.
Oh, I fully agree with what you're saying. But there's also people out there who are either especially in this field, you have to realize the problem that we have in this field, whether it's paranormal, ufological, whatever it is, the biggest problem that we have out there is the lack of education, the lack of research, the lack of people being so skeptical that they refuse to believe the evidence that is right in front of them.
You know what?
Because they can't handle it.
You know what Dave C. and I call that? Not doing your homework before you open your mouth.
Yeah.
Exactly. I got into a very deep discussion with someone, and it got heated because this person basically called me out saying that I didn't know how to do research, and I didn't know I should probably think of a different career than radio. She made it personal, and I absolutely snapped on that. Okay? But to me, there's a big difference between a skeptic and a non-believer. A non-believer is a five senses person. A skeptic, you're skeptical of it being truth. You want the proof. But if you are shooting down the proof that you have lying in front of you, you will never be able to find what you're looking for. So, for instance, with this young lady who I had this debate with, I brought up John Podesta. And her response was, well, I'm not going to take his word for it. Why aren't government officials coming out and telling us this then? The government can't hold that type of secret. I said, you had the right-hand man of the president saying that UFOs are real. And you're not willing to believe that? Or Paul Hellyer, Canada's former defense minister, who's gone public about this topic. He's the same way. And yet skeptics don't want to believe that. So are you a skeptic or are you a non-believer? There's only two. And I think we all need to be a little bit skeptical because especially as hosts of the shows that we do, because there are a lot of people out there right now who are trying to be the one who finds Bigfoot, be the one who proves extraterrestrials exist. I mean, Dave, you talked about vetting earlier. We have to vet the hell out of our guests.
Yep.
Okay, because every time we bring someone on, it's about our credibility. And if we bring on a fake person or someone who is faking evidence, how many people are going to listen to our shows?
Not very many.
Exactly. So we have to do that job.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that everybody is out there. The problem is everybody wants to believe, but no one knows how to believe because they're jealous of other people getting that information first.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And, the vetting part, it's not as easy as it sounds, though. But we definitely have to do our homework on the people we bring on. You had something to say, Les?
I was just going to say you're absolutely right. It's very hard, and sometimes you have to go with your gut. But then again, when you have a show like ours, it's sometimes you can't vet them. You have to take them for their word and when you take them for their word, you're giving. We're trying to give them that place to actually bring out that information that they have that could be important.
Yeah. Exactly. And we're not trying to make excuses, but it is the truth.
But we have to say every show that, this is this person's opinion. This is our opinion. Mm-hmm. We can't tell you it's 100% true. Go out and do your own homework, do your own vetting process. If you don't believe it, you don't have to. Everybody has different opinions and everybody's going to say, believe something or not. And that's up to their own individual, gut feeling or whatever research they can do.
Absolutely. But the problem with our society today is it's become way too easy to criticize. With social media, people can hide, people can have their fake names on there, people can have their aliases, and they can absolutely rip people new ones, or they can do whatever they want in order to try and debunk something or put someone's opinion down. It's easy to hide, right? But the problem is when you're not even trying to get the truth and yet you're criticizing, our job, and I consider myself skeptical, okay? I go by a theory. If I hear it once, it's a rumor. If I hear it twice, it's got some legs. If I heard it the third time, it's a story. And if I go by that theory, I'm usually pretty good in knowing whether or not someone is full of what their own ego or not. I know when I am vetting, just so the public knows, and I'm sure you guys do this too. If I email a guest saying, "Hey, I would love for you guys to come on the show," and when they email back, and if their first answer to me is, "Hey, thanks for sending us an email. How many live guests or how many live listeners do you have a night?" My immediate response back to them is, "I am no longer interested in bringing you on as a guest."
Mm-hmm.
Because if your first question is, how many listeners do you have, whether I have 10 live listeners or whether I have 10,000 or 100,000, it shouldn't matter, because you're supposed to be speaking about the message. It's not about the people. The only people who give a care about the numbers are the people who have something to sell. A book, a video collection, a movie. They have something to sell. They're not interested, I've been following your chat room all night. They're not interested in people like Dennis, Beverly, Brian, Casper, Barrett. They're not interested in you. They're interested in pushing their own foundation more than they are about getting the answers that people want. And so for me, that's an easy edit. Oh, that's your first question? Great. You don't have to be on the show.
Agreed.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Because if anything, if they're there, a truth teller is there to get the message and the truth out, and nothing more, nothing less. That's the way it should be, anyway.
Exactly. Okay, I know. I'm not going to give this person's name, but a very famous UFO doctor who says he has contact. That's the first question that he asked, or that his assistant asked me when I asked to bring him on the air.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I know this person has a bunch of things to sell, whether it's videos, whether it's T-shirts, whether it's memberships to his website, speaking engagements, weekends away for speaking on Contact, everything like that. So let me, asking point blank, if you're wondering about my audience, do you really care about the people who are buying your product?
No. I mean,
no, that's why they want to know how many audience members you have. Is how many people are going to be able to buy my product,
right?
Exactly. Exactly. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and for me, up to a point, if a person's got a book or they got a movie that they're trying to get together or fund or whatever, if it sounds legit and we do our homework and we know that this is what they really want to do because, they want to get the truth out, I don't have a problem with that.
Well, Dave, I don't even mind, them making money because everybody has to eat.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're doing it just to sell a book, no, that's not what I want. I want a little bit of truth with it.
We won't have that. Put it that way.
I had one author come unglued on me about 30 minutes before I was to bring him on the air that I hadn't read his book. And I said to him point blank, I will give you the best interview that you have ever had. Let's just go on the air and do it. And he said, well, if you haven't read my book, you don't know what we're talking about. My thing with authors is, and I tell them point blank, you're the one who wrote it. You're the one who needs to promote it. It isn't about me. I'm giving you the free airtime to talk about your book.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if you want to come on my show and talk to my audience, sell your book. It's not about me reading it. And so he had a little bit of a snit fit about that answer. And I literally said to him and this now 20 minutes before we're going to air, I said, you know what? I don't want to do a show with you. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I don't feel comfortable in doing this show. I think you have insulted me enough, and I am choosing not to do this show with you. So before I get angry, we're going to part ways here, and I'm going to say thank you for your time, but I'm taking the show in a different direction tonight.
Wow.
Yep, and you know what? I that's not the first time I've heard of an author being like that. There are several authors out there that I have heard of that want you to buy, are more interested in you buying their book first than in having it in your possession. And if you don't, they're not going to be on your show.
Mm-mm. Nope. And that's their loss.
It is. It really is. So what happens now when I bring an author on the show, I try and mention their book 2 to 3 times every half an hour. My show is 2 hours long. I try and do that because they are taking the time to talk about the subject. But the amount of time I actually spend on asking them about their book now is maybe, out of a 2-hour show, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. I'll promote the hell out of it. I'll tell my listeners, go buy it. You are sitting there using my airtime. We're going to talk about what you're writing about, but I'm not here to sell your book. That's not my job. Your job is to tell me about your book.
Yep. We want to know more about the person. We want to know the experience. We want to know all the other things.
And I can tell you that, and I can tell you this, guys. Every author that I have had on the air where we haven't talked about the book, we've mentioned it. We mention the book a lot. But when we have talked about other things that are built up around the book, they have actually enjoyed that more than the typical standard interview where we sit there and we say, well, tell me what John did when he saw the UFO. What do you think John is saying? What about Jane? That's not what it's about. What I care about is, let's say Dave Cruz has a UFO experience and you write a book about it. I want to know how you feel. I want to know what was your emotions, okay? No offense, and this will sound funny. I want to know if you pissed your pants.
None taken.
Right? Because that's putting a human aspect on it.
Yeah.
And that's what most radio shows, like as we make a full 360 here, because I know you're coming up to break again, that's what we're here to do. We're here to tell people stories. And that's the forgotten lesson for most people out there who are truly interested in bringing out what we need to do.
Yep. Absolutely. Wow. Dave, thanks again, man. We really appreciate being on the show tonight. I mean, I thought it was going to be more about the Super Bowl and stuff like that, but this is so much information that, yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thanks, Les. Yeah, and let's get more into the podcasting when we come back. And callers, 707-200-3520. Call in. Give us your opinion about Super Bowl or the show or anything you want to talk about. Sightings, experiences. You know, this is your show. So let's go to our last break. It'll be a quick one, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Are you bored with your Sunday nights? Looking for something different? A show that's for you, the listener? Tune in Sunday evenings, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, to Beyond the Strange.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Beyond the Strange. I'm your host, Dave Cruz. We're here with Les, and we're here with Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. And thanks again, Dave, for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you for coming at the last minute, too. I mean, that was amazing of you.
Yeah, we really appreciate that.
You know, Dave, one thing I wanted to bring up real quick, if that's okay. I wanted to welcome Gene, Lynn, Adam, Bev, Maya, Space Boy, and Kat. Hello, guys.
Oh, Kat's in. Okay.
Kat's in the house.
Hey, thanks for. Yeah, right on.
You know, we were kind of talking during the game. You know, a lot of people have been talking about drones lately. You know, drones are in the news a lot. Really interesting, you know, fact is, you know, in Sweden, they're actually using eagles to catch wayward drones that are being flown illegally in cities.
Did
you hear about that?
That one scares me.
That scared me too. And you know what? Caller, call back. I'm sorry, I lost you. I was having a little bit of an issue with Skype. Oh, there we go. Let me do this and see if I can get this. I don't want to keep losing Dave.
No, we don't want to do that.
No, it's kind of not giving me the option. I'm having some Skype issues here. Dave, you still with us? Caller, are you there?
Yeah, I'm right here. Right here.
Okay. Who's speaking?
Oh, this is Dave now. I was on hold there for a second.
This is great. I'm trying to get this merged, but caller, keep calling. I'm sorry. I'm having an issue with the Skype, but anyways, hey Dave, I wanted to ask you, what sightings have you had? What's your experience that actually got you more involved with the paranormal?
My happily boring life ended on December 13th, 2011. And I went to give my mother a hug that night, and I had a house full of people, about 25 people in my house. And my mother had been, she's been sick the last number of years, and she's still with us, thank God. But I went to give her a hug one night, and I realized as I moved closer to give her a hug that everybody in the entire room, like I said, there was about 20, 25 people in there, were standing still, not moving. And when I looked at my mom, my mother has these beautiful blue eyes, and that my daughter and my son have inherited. And when I looked at her, her eyes were jet black with something white looking back at me. And immediately I knew that I was staring into the eyes of the angel of death. I don't know how I knew, but I just knew. And when I kind of cocked my head to the side, kind of like, what is that in my mother's eyes? And my mother all of a sudden had this absolute look of shock on her face, like, oh, you see me. And after about 2-3 seconds, she snapped out of it like nothing was happening. My mom's eyes were blue again, and she proceeded to give me a hug, and like nothing had ever happened, like that time never happened. And about a couple hours later that night, my wife and I, we were sitting in our living room, and I was explaining to her what I saw and how weird that was. She goes, well, why don't you just relax and maybe just close your eyes and think deeply into what it was. I don't remember the next 38 minutes, and I'd never even heard of the word channeling before this, but I ended up channeling the angel of death. And what he said through me was I was not supposed to see him, but since I did, he felt that he owed me an explanation, which was this. He said, my mother has been more sick than what she's leading on to, and as a family, we're kind of getting sick because we all thought that she was just addicted to sympathy, but she was in true pain. She was in true discomfort, and we had grown cold on it. I mean, it sounds horrible for me to talk like that now, you know, but that's the reality of it. I mean, why sugarcoat it?
Sure.
And what he said was, if we as a family don't start showing my mother more love and respect, he was going to take her home.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
And so the next day I immediately got on the phone with my sisters, told my sisters what had happened. I explained to my family, including my daughter and my stepdaughter, what had happened. And I said, we got to start showing Mom and Grandma more love and respect here, because otherwise she's going to go home and I'm not ready to lose her yet. And that included myself. I'm proud to say that, 4 years later, my mother is still with me. She's actually visiting my home tonight and has been all weekend. And, it's fantastic. And from there, it's been a whirlwind. Since that date, I've had a number of strange occurrences. I had an experience where I saw 2 Bigfoot. I've seen and had probably 120 paranormal experiences, probably the same with UFO experiences, including a couple of triangles that were just amazing to watch. I've had orbs over my house hovering in the daytime. I've also seen 5 extraterrestrials. And
I'm sorry. Could you tell us which 5 you've seen? Do you know their names?
Well, sure. It's Bob, Henry, Delilah. No.
The race. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So the first one I saw happened 5 days after I had a ship land in about 150 yards from me. And what I want your audience to know, and even though, because we're getting into a little bit of a darker area where people are either going to be able to say, we believe this or we don't. Okay. It's one of those things where I'm lucky and fortunate enough that almost every experience I have had witnesses to. A lot of people, they don't have that luxury. Right. I can say very rarely have I been alone when I've had an experience. And when I say rarely, I'm saying out of all the experiences I have had, I could probably count on less than one hand where I haven't had someone with me. And when I saw the ship land, it was next to my children being born, it was literally one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And 5 days after that, when I saw this being, to be honest with you, I don't even know what it was or what kind of species it was. I really don't know. Okay, all I know is that this thing was about 10 to 12 feet high. I saw it with an ET contactee friend of mine, and it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I saw it. So it was impossible for someone to fix this. Do you know what I'm saying by that? Yes. It was impossible. And I know what I saw. This being I did not see any arms or legs. I saw the head. I saw a very strange looking body. Apparently there was 2 beings there. I did not see the second one, because when you're 40 years old, and I'm 42 now, when you're 40 years old and you see a being like that for the first time in the middle of the afternoon, everything that races through your mind isn't, I can tell you what it isn't. It isn't, well, let me just take out my iPhone and take a picture.
Right.
Okay? It isn't, I want to run up to it and say hello. Okay? It isn't, what we all fantasize it would be. It's scary. It's intimidating. Imagine if you had every rule that your parents, grandparents, family, religion had ever taught you written on a piece of paper, and a complete stranger walks up to you and says, "Oh, what's that in that? What's that in your hand?" You say, "Well, this is the rules that I've learned about life and God and whatever." And then he looks at that piece of paper, rips it out of your hand, crumples it up, and throws it in the garbage. That's what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It is difficult. I can tell you my reaction. It was, what the F is that?
Mm.
What the F is that?
Right.
This is what is going through my mind as I see this. Okay? And no, Robert Noel, I do not have a tumor, because someone else saw right beside me, and I don't think we could each grow a tumor and see the same thing at the same time. Okay?
Well, Dave, I mean, I can understand the fear. It's a paradigm-shifting moment. I mean, anyone who sees what you've seen, whether it be Bigfoot, whether it be an alien or whatever, it does. It was a perfect analogy right there. It throws everything out everybody's ever told you your entire life. It doesn't matter whether you believe it or not until it happens to you. When it happens, it's not going to be fun.
I can tell you right now, I've had enough experience to know where if I was ever fortunate enough to have that happen again, I would walk up to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would. I don't know why. I say that now that it hasn't happened. Okay. The second extraterrestrial experience I had was September 29th, 2014. I woke up on the table while I was being implanted. And there were 3 little gray dudes working on me. The 5th ET that I saw happened on April 20th, 2015. 10 minutes into my radio program, I saw something move outside the window of where I broadcast, because I broadcast out of my home. And immediately I'm thinking, oh, goodness, one of my daughters has a friend coming over, or, maybe we have friends stopping by, because we have an open house policy.
Right.
We just always have. And my concern was, okay, someone's out there. Now my dogs are going to go nuts. And I have I have a Chihuahua Dachshund cross where, if there's a crosswind outside, that equates to about 30 to 45 minutes of barking. Right? So I was concerned about my dogs going nuts. So I put my microphone on hold as my guest, a gentleman named Harvey Kraft, was speaking of Buddha of all topics.
Mm-hmm.
And as he started answering the first question, I turned and looked out the window, and on the other side of the window, probably, I'm going to say 7 feet from me, there was 2 large black eyes staring at me. And they were inset on a very large gray head. And I damn near fell out of my chair. I had a good look at them. And then I almost fell back into my chair, because it's mesmerizing when you see that happen. And when I did my double take to see if I was actually seeing what I really was, it was gone. That fast. A human I would have seen move. Did not see him move.
Right.
It was an incredible, incredible story.
Did your dogs
event.
Did your dogs start barking, and did they start alerting anything?
No.
That's freaky.
They weren't around in that part of my house.
Oh, they weren't. Oh,
But here I'm thinking, if someone knocks at the door,
yeah.
Or my garage door opens up, because all my friends knew my garage door code. Because, like I said, we had an open house policy for friends, and family. Just don't bother knocking, just come on in. I'm kind of old school that way. Right? So, I mean, weird things happen.
Yeah.
I've had some weird things happen during the show. I interviewed a lady, she goes by Dr. Love, Jamie Turndorf, and she's out of New York, and we were doing a recording through a Skype session, and she said to me beforehand, she goes, don't be surprised if her husband Jean comes through from the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and during one of our breaks, all of a sudden I heard a man's voice come through the microphone. I said, Jamie, is that you talking? Or are we having a bad connection? She goes, no, what does it sound like? I said, it sounds like a man, an accented man's voice. She goes, oh, that's my husband from the other side. Because she had communication with him to this day. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a gentleman on the air in November, an author named Anthony Kenyatta, about his Harold the Haunted Doll. And before the show, he says to me, Dave, don't be surprised if something weird happens. Oh, okay. Well, weird stuff has happened before. There's been an alien at my window. Right?
That's weird. Yep.
45 minutes into the show, you know how you just see something out of your peripheral vision. So I see something out of my peripheral vision. I look over my left shoulder, and there's a dark cloaked figure standing about 5 feet tall, literally about 2 feet away from me. And once again, I jumped back in my chair, got freaked out. I immediately cut Anthony off as what he was saying, and I said, Anthony, I've just had a black cloaked being standing right beside me. And he goes, no, I said a cloaked being. And he asked me, he goes, was it black? And I said, yes. He goes, was it about 5 feet tall? And I said, yes. And he goes, that's Harold. He goes, would you believe that a person I was talking to just 3 days ago had that same cloaked being standing in their house? And he lives in, oh goodness, he's in New Hampshire, I believe.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, that's crazy. He actually, like, basically transported from where your person was to where you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, scared the hell out of me.
Oh my God. That makes sense. I mean, why couldn't they do that, right?
You know.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you, Dave. Go ahead.
No, I interrupted you. I apologize.
No, please.
Oh, God, you're so Canadian.
Not even, man.
You know, but you know, I mean, these experiences are happening, and when they happen, you know, when I have something happen like that, you know, my big thing is I really fight with the fact, do I bring that to the audience's attention right away? Because I'm not saying anything for a ratings boost. I'm not saying anything for, you know, to say, you know, because people will automatically think you're making something up. If you're having an experience while you're on the air, you're making something up. I have nothing to make up.
Yeah.
Right? I'm an experiencer, man. I'm just happen to be a journalist. Yeah. Right? I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a physicist. I'm not a mathematician. All I am is some dude who got a journalism degree, paid $25,000 for my voice, and played on the radio for a while. Still play on the radio again, but I've had some really cool happenings, man. And that's why I do this show.
Yes, and it's a great show, by the way. I really enjoy it, Dave. I just want to let you know that. Tina had a question in Spreaker. I'm not sure if you saw that or not, but she did want to know about the implants. Is that okay to ask?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
She wanted to know where the implant was.
My implant was, when I woke up on the table, I was laying face down, and I felt little fingers, like children's fingers, on the back of my head. And my friend Samantha, who I had seen the first ET with, okay, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, she sat down with me. I became friends with her, and she came over to my house and had a discussion with Mrs. Spaced Out Radio and myself. And she said to me, she says, Dave, now that you have seen them, there's a very strong chance that you're going to be taken and implanted now. And I said, okay, not a problem. She goes, but I want to tell you something. She goes, if you see them or if you wake up, you are immediately going to be scared. You're going to want to yell. You're going to want to scream. You're going to want to panic. She goes, but I'm here to tell you, as someone, and she's been taken hundreds of times. Wow. She goes, I want to tell you, you don't have to be. So she goes, and she gave me this list of everything that I should do. Okay, just lay back, be calm. It's going to feel like it hurts, but it doesn't. Okay, just enjoy the experience. Talk to them. Do whatever you need to do. But she says, I promise you it doesn't hurt, and I promise you they'll bring you back. So my story is actually a little bit funny. And I'll fill in what Tina's question was. I ended up waking up on the table where my face was kind of buried. You know, when you go for a massage, your face, you lay on your stomach and your face kind of goes into that donut so you can breathe, right? So that's what I'm laying on. It was a metal table. The donut felt metal, but yet it was soft on my face. And I felt the little hands on my head, on the back of my head. They were kind of feeling around, and then they backed off, and I remember picking up my head, looking over my left shoulder, and I saw 3 of them, and I was like, "Oh, hey guys, how you doing?" And then immediately everything that Samantha had told me all of a sudden kicked in. Like, it was almost like it was telepathic straight from her. That this isn't going to hurt. Everything that she had told me back in April when her and I had seen this extraterrestrial, and now this is September 29th. And so I put my face back down, and I felt them cut open the back of my head. And I'm like, "Oh, that hurts." And I'm like, "Well, hold on, that didn't hurt." And then I felt them cut open my skull. I remember the smell. I cannot describe it. And I can remember the sound of this drill. It didn't sound like a drill. It didn't sound like starting a saw blade or anything like that. It was just a weird sound, and I felt it cutting in. And I remember I should be screaming here, but my senses are telling me this should hurt, but it doesn't. And then I felt the first dude who was closest to me, it was like he was pulling my skin, trying to pull it back to give them more area to work on. And then the second dude was trying to pull up to create an opening where they could pull up my scalp a little bit so they could get the implant in there. And the third dude was the one trying to jam the implant in there. So as they're doing this, and God's honest truth, I'd swear on my children's lives and a Bible or whatever you believe in personally, this is what happened. As they are doing this, I have Samantha's voice going through my head. "This does not hurt." And I recall thinking, you know what, this actually feels kind of cool. So I'm going with it. And then I had the ultimate urge to go to the bathroom. So,
of all things.
Okay. So,
Wow.
when you are partying really hard with the boys or a bunch of friends and you're trying not to break the seal, and yet it gets to the point where it hurts.
Yeah.
That's what I was going through.
Oh.
So I'm speaking through this donut, and I was like, "Guys, you got to hurry up here. I am going to piss all over your table, and I really don't want to do that." Like I was trying to express to them that I'm going to be embarrassed here if I pee myself.
Right.
Okay? And they just keep working away. And I'm like, "Guys, you're not getting it. You got to get me home now. I got to piss like a racehorse. Hurry up and get done because I got to pee. And I got to pee bad. So you have to get me home so that way I can go to the bathroom." And they kept working and ignoring me. I'm like, "Guys, you don't understand. I am going to piss all over this table if you don't hurry up." And this went on for about, I'm going to say time-wise, it felt like 5-6 minutes. And the next thing I know, I woke up on top of my blankets. My face was buried in my pillow, and I don't sleep on my stomach, and I don't sleep with my face buried in a pillow. Okay? And I got up. The back of my head was absolutely pulsating. So, Tina, where it's implanted is about, if you go where your spine disappears into your skull, there's that real soft spot in between. It's about 2 fingers, maybe an inch up from that. And I ran to the bathroom. My right hand, I'm holding the back of my head because it's just thumping, like pain, not painful, but achingly thumping. And I must have stood there for about another 5 minutes in front of the bathroom doing my man thing. It was a weird experience.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't want to remember any of that if that happens to me. That's for sure. And thanks, Dave, for sharing that. I mean, that's really amazing. Everyone has a different experience, in my opinion. There are some similarities, but there's a lot of experience out there, including in our audience. And I've talked to a few of them, and it's almost the same, but with just a few little different details. But I'm telling you, I would not want to remember it. I mean, aliens scare the crap out of me. Even that one alien from that movie Paul, I mean, he's supposed to look funny, and I don't know. I guess it's a comedy, but every time I look at him, man, I get creeped out, and I don't know what that's about. Like, I don't know. I don't know if maybe somehow I've been abducted, or I don't know about abducted, but met them and then had my mind wiped. But they creep me out, dude, and I don't get scared about a lot of things.
It's surreal, man. It's absolutely surreal when it happens. And, I haven't had an extraterrestrial experience since then. I know my wife is a contactee. I know she was last taken a couple of weeks ago. And she woke up and there were 3 of them standing in our bedroom. So, I don't know why they take her, but they do. But they've in her rationalization, nothing bad has ever happened with her. Nothing bad has ever been she's never felt scared, or she's never felt that her life is in danger. I don't think it's as bad as what we think it is. Okay. I think they want to track people because they want to know what we're up to. They want to, much like we track dolphins or whales or sharks in the ocean. That's their way of being able to keep tabs on us. And when they are implanting us, trying to garner information or whatever, maybe you know what? It's the $1 million question, and I'm shooting arrows into the sky, hoping that it hits something. So it's very interesting indeed why they're doing it.
Dave, do you have and I'm gonna I'm gonna ask you this, even though you may not know the answer, if that's okay. Do you have any insight whatsoever as to what they're trying to get from this information from tracking you? Do you think why do you think they're doing it?
This is going to sound really selfish, okay? And I don't mean it this way. I had no intention of getting back into radio.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, I was very happy with my happily boring life. I was very happy with the fact that, I had money in my bank, I had my ATVs, I had my home, I had my couple of Jeeps in the driveway, and I could do a family vacation every year and maybe a couple of weekends to get away, whether it was to Vegas or Whistler or wherever I wanted to go. And as soon as these experiences started, my life changed. And it was shortly before like 2 months before the show started, that I got implanted. And the one thing is, when and trust me, this is going to sound really screwed up here, okay? I know whoever they are, wanted me to do the spaced out radio. I had a very stern conversation with them one night, and I said, look, I will give you 3 years. If you want me to do this and to pursue this, I need to know that I'm going to be taken care of, both financially, with time, because, I had my daytime career, which I still have, and I have my evening, night owl job being a radio show host.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't talk about my personal career because I try and keep my private life private.
Sure.
Okay? And I said, I'll give you 3 years. If I am not making what I am making at my current job, I will walk away with this with my head held high. And I will not do it. And every time I get frustrated, every time I get mad, or something happens that refires and reignites that entire thing. Casper is saying in your chat room, do I think if I was programmed?
Yes.
I think it was, to be honest with you, I think it revolves around the show. I really do. And that may sound egotistical. That may sound like I am on a path of, trying to promote myself as an experiencer and a dude who's implanted. But if you know me and you get the opportunity to know me, and Dave, you know me a little bit, okay,
Yes.
we've talked quite a bit. I think I'm a pretty honest, genuine guy. You know, I mean, here you and I are literally, let's face it, we're in competition, but I've done everything to help you out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We've talked a lot over time.
Exactly. And I make that point, Dave, because I'm trying to express to your audience that there's a lot of bullshit out there. Okay? And I don't want to be one of those guys. I'm not happy that I've had all this stuff happen to me. I think it's cool. Okay? I really do. I didn't want to get back into radio. I lost my first wife to another man. And I lost my original family due to the fact that I had dedicated myself to radio. I hated radio.
Mm-hmm.
I truly hated radio. And I needed to, but when I started having these experiences, I had no inkling of doing this. But it was the only thing I knew how, because when I was in terrestrial radio before, that's how I researched stories and tracked people down. That's what I was good at. And I loved that. And, you know, that's why I think that maybe I was implanted to do this show. Okay, so that they could track me. Right? So that way they could be a part of it. And when I got down or frustrated or tired, which I do frequently because I do it 5 days a week. I mean, just so your audience knows, this is my day, my average day.
Yeah.
I get up at 7 to 7:15 in the morning. I'm at my daytime career at 8:30. I work there until 5:30. I get home at 5:40. Okay. I have a 2.5-year-old son. I call him Mini SOR. Okay, who then wants to play with me, and I want to play with him because he's kind of fun and he's really cool. My wife then makes dinner. Together we sit down for dinner. But before we do that, I run down to my office to make sure that my computer is A-OK running. There's no viruses. I'm not missing any messages. I then run upstairs to eat dinner. I go back into my office right after dinner because now I have to call my guest for that night's show, okay, and make sure, excuse me, make sure that he or she is ready to go and everything is set up and so on. That phone call can take anywhere from 4 minutes to an hour, depending on how much the person wants to talk. Okay, so now we're up to about 7 o'clock, 7:30 at night. I spend another hour with my family before going back into my basement studio at 8:30 to prepare for my 10 o'clock show. By the time my show wraps up and then I call my guest after the show to tell him, hey, good job, or is there anything I can improve on? How was that experience for you? By the time I get to bed, wind down, it's usually between 1 and 2 in the morning. And then I wake up at 7 the next morning and do it all again. That's my day. That's where I get tired. And that's what I've tried to explain to them, whoever the hell they are, by saying, you know, what are you doing? And I want people to know this too. And this is something that I've never talked about on the air before. And I'll mention it to your class because you're catching me in a moment here. So, you know, I better get my tissues ready. No, I'm kidding on that. But I do very well in my daytime career. Okay? I don't need this.
Right.
Okay? I make, you know, and I'm not saying this to brag, but I make low six figures.
Mm-hmm.
Very low six figures, but I make a very healthy income. Okay? I'm not someone who is struggling to pay their bills. I'm not someone who is struggling to put food on the table and trying to live a pipe dream. Okay? I'm not doing that at all. I don't need this. I'm doing this because I feel that I need to. Right. I'm doing this because experiencers out there don't have the ability to do or to find a home for people like themselves where they can have that outlet where they can say and feel that they're not alone. And that's what I'm trying to provide.
Yep.
And I think so far you're doing a pretty darn good job of it, Dave.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's why I do it too, Dave.
And I wanted to mention something to you, Dave S. I think you're right. I think the reason maybe they are tracking you is because they want you to do this. And from what I've seen in this small little field that we've all become a part of, podcasting, whether it's podcasting or doing a live show on the internet, I truly believe that certain people are being clustered together, are being found. We're finding each other very slowly yet very surely through the internet, through our interest. And now nothing has ever happened to me. Okay, mainly people come to me. I don't know why that is, and they want to talk about their experiences. But I think you're absolutely right, and I think there's a reason why all these small little clusters of groups are all getting together. And I think eventually, something's gonna connect, and something big's gonna happen. I don't know what that is. I think a lot of us feel that way. And I think we are I've had enough synchronicities and synchronistic moments and strange things happening to know that's true and to feel that's true. So keep rolling that rock uphill is one of my favorite, internet jockeys says, because we're going to get there eventually and we're going to do it together.
I totally agree.
Very
I
well
totally
said.
agree with what you're saying. And, as long as we're not shut up, as long as we're able to have a voice out there, like the other thing that I want to say, because I've often been asked by people point blank, do you worry about men in black coming to your door? Do you worry about your phone being tapped or your computer being looked at from the other side? I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I don't is, A, I got nothing to hide. And B, I don't care about what the government is hiding. Like we were talking a little bit earlier about, Illuminati signs during the Super Bowl. I'm not caring about, what their agenda is, what they're hiding from us, whatever. What I care about is telling people stories. I mean, I love conspiracy. Conspiracy to me is just so fascinating. Whether it's JFK, whether it's the 27 Club in music, whether it's, 9/11 or Sandy Hook or, the Boston bombings. I have just an absolute blast looking into that stuff. But I really don't care if it's a shadow government or the Jews or the Skull and Bones or the Illuminati or the Bilderbergs. I really don't care. I just want to talk about the stories and put a human figure on that and put a human sense on that. Because to me, I can't, who am I? I'm a nobody on this planet. I'm one of 7.4 billion people. I'm not going to change the world. But the one thing I can do is allow people to have an outlet.
Yes.
To where they can, say, hey, that dude is like me or someone like me. And I feel comfortable. I feel like I have a home. I have one gentleman who listens to me on a nightly basis who literally was ready to commit suicide because he felt he was all alone after his extraterrestrial experiences started in March of last year. And they've been doing some pretty nasty things to him. And he literally was searching vigorously to try and find somebody who would speak and talk, the same type of lingo that he was having. And he found my show. And now he listens almost every night. And he uses our show as therapy because in his minds, we're the only ones really giving a care about the experiencer.
That's right.
And we are someone who are a group that is really trying hard to make sure that people feel that their voice, their questions are being heard. It's not about exposure to me. It's not about, going all Stan Romanek and trying to, scream out to the government, what are you hiding? Or, look what happened to him, or Phil Schneider, or all these doctors that are being, committing suicide with bullets to the back of their head. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
To me, it's not about that. what it is it's about helping people, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Exactly, Dave. I totally agree, and that's exactly why I got into it too. And you know, even with my experiences, I felt the need to bring it to the table and to also bring everyone else's concerns and their opinions and their experiences out, because people need to hear it. You know, there's stuff in the world that's not explained, and you know, we can't do it by ourselves. And you know, shows like yours and mine, and you know, all the other ones that are trying to get to the truth, they're important, and we got to stick together. I think that's the important part. You know, we shouldn't tear each other down. And I really want to thank you for coming on the show tonight, man. I really appreciate it. And I know it was last minute, and you know, you've always been there. I really appreciate it. Dave, where can we find your show, and you know, give us your info?
Twitter.
Yeah, right now we're broadcasting off of Blog Talk Radio. I can't stand BTR, so we're actually going to be coming over to Spreaker here probably in about a month or so. And but right now you can find all of our information at spacedoutradio.com. On Twitter, you can find us at spacedoutradio. On Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can, if you wouldn't mind, giving our page a like, spreading the word about it. We also have two of our private groups, Spaced Out Radio and Podcast Central. And as well on Instagram, I can be found at Dave Scott SOR. So we're out there. And Dave Scott on LinkedIn. We're out there. We're, we're doing our best to try and do what we can with a minimal budget. And we just want to make sure that if you have any questions, I'm the type of dude, man, where there's no ego here. This is about you, and if you want to talk to me privately, I'm more than welcome to do that. I will always make time.
And I'll attest to that. And I want to thank you again for your brutal honesty tonight. It's refreshing. It really is. You know, we actually did a show on the BS and the paranormal community, and there's a lot of it out there. So thank you very much, Dave, for being on the show. We really appreciate it.
And thank you guys for giving me the time. It was an absolute pleasure to be a part of it and to see what you guys are doing as well. So thank you so much.
Thanks again, Dave. All right. Great show. I want to thank our guest tonight, Dave Scott. And I also want to thank everyone who called in or who was in the panel or who wasn't in the panel. Our creative producer of Beyond the Strange is Rick Sennett. Co-host is LJ3 or Les Johnson III. Retweets and postings by Dennis Koch and Gunny Jean Vittel. Music is by Alan Hall and Melody Loops. Intro is by Spaceboy. Visit him at spaceboymusic.com. Bumps and Drops by Brian Anderson and Gunny Jean Vittel. You can hear more of Brian at brianandersonvoice.com. Tech Advisory by Brian Anderson. And next week, we're going to have something special for you. So make sure you check out the tweets and check out Facebook. And we'll have something really, really good for Valentine's. Until then, have a good night. Be safe. Be happy. But most of all, be strange. Hasta.